Welcome to Murfreesboro Storytellers. This month we are originating from the office of the Rutherford County Chamber of Commerce, located in the Gateway Project near the Avenue, a recent development that we're going to talk about. When I think about the Gateway, I think about Tom Lane, I think about Bill Gatton, I think about Joe Jackson, Roger Haley, Tommy Smith, among others. And we're pleased to have as our guest today Tommy Smith, local developer of the Gateway Project. Welcome, Tommy.
Thank you.
And Roger Haley, former city manager for the city of Murfreesboro, now enjoying retirement.
Thank you, John.
And well deserved. Gentlemen, how did this all come? Where did this start? How did we come up with this wonderful project that's developed like it is today? Something that we'd always been wanting for Murfreesboro, and here it is. How did it originate?
I think probably Mr. Haley and the city of Murfreesboro started it because they were looking for really a new interchange and a new entrance into the city of Murfreesboro. Roger, is that not correct?
Tommy, it is. Back probably about 1990 and 91, the city was hamstrung with the 96 interchange and 231 interchange. Everything was just a bottleneck. We needed to move things, to move Murfreesboro forward, transportation-wise. We needed additional interchanges located in the city. At the same time, there were a group of individuals that were encouraging the mayor. At that time, that was Joe Jackson, encouraging Mayor Jackson to move forward with the development of a conference center. That discussion took place, the initial discussions were over about a 2-year period. Along about 94, 95, the city really begun the process of trying to determine what type of conference center, the location of the conference center, the different venues that might be located around it. And as Tommy will recall, and John, you too, Murfreesboro had years earlier developed Old Fort Golf Course and Old Fort Park. It was believed that if the city could acquire property on the north side of the river from the golf course, that there could be an expansion of golfing holes to Old Fort, as well as make a site available for a conference center. And at the same time that was being discussed, it was believed that, well, if we want to move Murfreesboro forward for jobs, maybe if we acquired enough property, we could see the development of office facilities and new retail facilities. John, we batted that back and forth for several years. The mayor and council, city council, appointed a citizens committee to study conference centers, the viability, the various elements that would go along with that kind of building, that kind of project. And we, with the city, that looked daily at how do we move the community forward transportation-wise, it became obvious that we just really had to pull out the stops and develop a new entrance into the city of Murfreesboro. Well, again, over a 2 or 3 year period, lots of discussions, but we couldn't come up with a concrete plan. We had elements, but we couldn't mesh it together. And I remember very well waking up about 3 o'clock in the morning sitting straight up in bed, and either in a dream or subconsciously, this conceptual plan was in my mind as to what I felt like I wanted to recommend that we do. And it was like I was looking at a picture. So I went to the phone, got up, went to the telephone, called
3
Joe.
o'clock in the morning?
3 o'clock in the morning. I called Mayor Jackson. And I didn't say, Mayor, what are you doing? I knew what he was doing. He was in the bed asleep. And his wife, Frances, happened to answer the phone, and she let me know that he was asleep. But anyway, she handed him the phone. I took it, asked him where he was going to be at 6 o'clock the next morning. And he said, where do you want me to be? And I said, I want you to meet me at the Cracker Barrel on Chafin Place off of 96. He said he'd be there. So then I called Tom Reed, the city attorney. Same conversation with Tom. They both met me at the Cracker Barrel the next morning when it opened. And John, I sat there with a napkin and drew out what I wanted to recommend, the route that we take. But one of the elements that it eliminated was the expansion of Old Fort Golf Course.
Okay.
That seemed to be a stumbling block that we needed to get beyond. And once we got beyond that, then on that napkin we had a plan. Mayor Jackson instructed me that the key property that we had to acquire was Mr. Thomas Swain's property. And Mayor Jackson charged me with meeting with Mr. Swain and working out, seeing if there would be an interest in him selling his land to the city. Long story short, Mr. Swain was very supportive of what the city was trying to do. Over the next year, I believe a total of maybe 13, 14 property owners of larger tracts and probably a half a dozen or so owners of smaller tracts were put together, and we ultimately acquired about 380 acres that started the Gateway project.
And that was the Tom Lane property that you acquired?
No, this is the city property where the Oaks is located now,
yes.
the
Yes,
hospital,
excuse me.
the office buildings, doctor's offices, around the hospital. This land lay east of Thompson Lane. At the same time that was going on, I was having conversation with Mr. Tom Lane, trying to get Mr. Lane to give to the city the land required, the easements to run what is now Medical Center Parkway out to Manson Pike. Mr. Lane's a very good businessman, farmer, and a wonderful man. But understandably, he refused to give his land for this road.
I understand.
Timing-wise, it was sad. Mr. Lane passed away.
Right.
His two sons, Tom and Steve, inherited the property, and that's about the time Tommy Smith got involved. From that standpoint, now, Tommy had been involved really from day one. Tommy was on the original committee that studied a conference center in the city of Murfreesboro.
Mr. Swain is the gentleman who had the daffodils blooming leading up to his home. That's correct.
He did. Had a beautiful place.
It's always a beautiful, beautiful place any time of the year, especially that time. So, Tommy, how did you get more directly involved in, even though you were on the original committee?
Well, the original committee was charged with going and seeing what we could do as far as a first-class hotel and conference center was concerned. And the committee did tour several hotels and conference centers to see what we might like to try to do. And we were doing fine. We knew what we wanted to do. We knew the type of facility that we wanted here. Then we ran into a little political problem, and that slowed us down.
Right.
And we got beyond that political problem. I guess Richard Reeves was mayor at that time.
Yes.
And moved us forward on that in that situation. And at the same time, Mr. Lane had passed away, and Tom and Steve said, we will let you know should we wish to sell the property. And I said, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Well, in the meantime, this nice Southern gentleman walked into my office one day, and I said, Mr. Smith, I would like for you to help me do something. I said, yes, what is that? He said, my name is Bill Gatton. I'm from Bristol, Tennessee, and there's some property that I want to see if I can purchase. I said, fine, be happy to help you. And so that property ended up being the Tom Lane farm.
Okay.
And he said, I said, the boys have a little problem as far as getting through the legalities of the settling the estate and this, that, and the other, but they will call me as soon as they get things in order. He said, that's fine. Just call me and let me know what we need to do. Fine. Well, Tom and Steve did call me and said, we're ready to sell the property. And I said, do you have a price? Yes, we do. And he gave me the price. So I called Mr. Gatton. I said, Mr. Gatton, they want to sell the property, and here's the price. He said, well, I'll take it. I said, well, now, Mr. Gatton, we need to really look at the land a little bit. We need to punch some holes in the land to find out what's under it, and this, that, and other. And he said, well, okay, see if they will give us a little time, and we can get some people in there, and we will look at the land. And we did. They gave us 30 days, and I got an engineer in there, and we found out that the land was good. I'd known the farm for 30, 40 years myself because I'd passed it every day because I lived out in the Black
You grew
community.
up not too far
That's
from the
right,
farm.
exactly.
Huh.
And so I said, Mr. Gatton said he will purchase the farm at your price. And I said, when would you like to close? I said, we'd like to close on Christmas Eve. I said, well, that's fine. We'll close on Christmas Eve. Well, they owed us a survey, and the surveyor didn't quite get it done. So we did close the first week of the next year. That was about in 04, somewhere right in that area. And then we started to work on the land. We had no water, we had no sewer. And with the help of the city of Murfreesboro, and we developed the plan that put water, sewer, electricity, and everything in what was about 400 acres out there. We got that done, and then we were ready to start selling the property. The first property that we sold was 100 acres, and that's where your Avenue Shopping Center is sitting
All
now.
right. That development is an organization out of Atlanta, isn't it?
There was a joint venture there.
Joint
It was the Faison people and the Cousins Properties
Okay,
people.
Cousins, I was thinking of.
A young man by the name of Mike Cohn came in to see me, and Murfreesboro is known, and a large tract of land trading in and around Middle Tennessee. It's known to the developers. And I said, we'd like to talk to you about a shopping center here. And we negotiated the land for the shopping center, and that was pretty much our first sale. Mm-hmm. And of course, that was an anchor for the 400 acres. In the meantime, we moved forward. We developed the area as we know it as Phase 1, is where the hotel is, and all the other hotels are located out in front. Mr. John Q. Hammonds made a second effort to come to Murfreesboro. That was a few years before he wanted to come, and he couldn't come because we weren't ready.
Yes.
And So he determined that, yes, he wants to build his hotel and his conference center here. And we sold him 15 acres for his hotel. In the meantime, other hotels and other hospitality facilities understood what was starting to happen with an 80,000 square foot conference center and a 283 room hotel. And so they started buying hotel sites. Right now, if everybody that owns a hotel or hotel site and everybody that is under construction with hotel, if they all finish, we will have over 1,000 hotel rooms on that corner out there.
Counting Embassy Suites as well.
That is
Yes,
correct. That's right. And of course, along what came along next, of course, was the ancillary programs of the gas station, our restaurants, and other facilities like that, and as they continue today.
I remember you telling me there's a theater planning on coming.
We've been working with the theater, and we are waiting for them to make a move right now. In the development business, you never know quite what's going to happen.
I'm sure that's true. What else is on the drawing board that you can tell us about?
Well, right now, there is existing or under construction, there is about 750 apartment units out there. There's an additional 200 apartments that want to get started, and they're in planning at this time. In fact, this afternoon, there will be the groundbreaking for the nursing home program that's out there, and that they will be building, starting on about a $20 million facility there.
And that's very close to this large apartment development.
Yes, it's right at the corner of Wilkerson and Robert Rose Drive. And along with that, we have numerous smaller retail facilities that up and down Medical Center Parkway. There's another 32 acres that a retail developer out of Atlanta is going to build another shopping center. And the gentleman that was working with the Cousins and Faisad people, Mr. Mike Cohn, has purchased another 12 or 14 acres for another facility here. So we are known in the retail and shopping center location business in Murfreesboro now.
Tell us about the office development is underway too, back toward the far end of the development from where we are at the Chamber building.
That's a Mr. Graby who is developing that. Mr. Graby is local here in Murfreesboro, and he worked out a deal with the city of Murfreesboro to build that on the city property.
Okay.
And he paid, as I understand it, market price for the land. And it's something that we desperately need here. That is part of our economic program here that is really not full and filled out the way we need it to be as part of our economic pie here. Everything else is in pretty darn good shape, but we do need that office space here and that major headquarters user here. We've got thousands of people that leave and drive to Nashville and Franklin that could virtually work right here in Murfreesboro if we had those facilities.
And the MTech corporate office is under construction also, isn't it?
John,
Yes,
I just wanted to comment on that. The MTech facility is being built on property that was a part of the original Gateway property acquisition, and the city was in a position to offer that land free to MTech to attract them to come to this community. Sane Construction out of Manchester is building that facility. Should be open in less than a year, and will employ initially about 350 very good jobs. That'll be the North American headquarters for MTech, and the city has set aside some additional acreage adjoining the original site to accommodate a possible expansion of the MTech property in the future. But what we had envisioned and wanted to see happen years ago through the original acquisition of land from the government's side and through the acquisition and transfer of land from the private sector, if you start at Broad Street, well, really you can start at Memorial Boulevard and go all the way through to the interstate on Medical Center Parkway, and you look at what's happened in that corridor. John, I've been retired now for several years, but just in my head adding up while Tommy was talking, I'm going to estimate that there's been close to $750 million worth of development since the initial acquisition of property in that corridor, with several hundreds and hundreds of millions more that will come in the future. Those of us who are from Rutherford County can remember when this entire corridor, it was good to raise bush goats, squirrels, and rabbits.
That's for sure.
It had a few covey of quail.
Yeah.
And it provided housing for those farmers that lived on it. Now that same acreage provides literally thousands of jobs. The medical facility that we have in Murfreesboro now is not just a Rutherford County medical.
Regional.
We're regional. The neighboring counties, we're so much more convenient for people than traveling to Nashville. It's just endless to see what's happened. From a revenue standpoint, when you look at the property taxes as well as the sales tax generated, again, in this corridor, I'm going to estimate that probably 20% of the property and sales tax generated from within the city of Murfreesboro today comes from Memorial Boulevard to the interstate.
No doubt.
So,
What's to come? Anything in particular?
Well, we have, we think that there's a great future for more and more in the gateway development. In fact, this past week, we just bought another 44 acres out there and we'll start development on that in about a year.
Where is that located in relation to the avenue or where we
That
are?
is virtually in front of the avenue.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yes. And there are other people that want to come to the avenue right now. If I had 5 apartment sites out there, I could sell them today. More retail wants to come out there. I'm sure that we will get a certain portion of the office program at some given time. We're not quite known in Murfreesboro as an office destination.
Yeah, that's one of the things I know we've been wanting that in the corporate headquarters as well.
That's exactly right. And that's like I say, the last part of our economic puzzle that we need to continue to work toward getting. And if we can get that portion of it satisfied, then we will be we will have a very good rounded economy here in our community.
We're so blessed. It's just amazing how this has taken place in such a relatively short period of time.
It's been phenomenal. John, we mentioned Joe Jackson, we've mentioned Richard Reeves, Tommy Bragg. I don't want to fail to mention
That was
Tommy.
one of my next comments was
Yeah.
you've had the support of a mayor and a city council all through these years that helped to make it happen, right?
We have Council John Pittard, Woody Robinson, and I shouldn't start naming them because I know I'll leave them out. But from citizen standpoint, Hubert McCullough,
Yes.
Brad Miller, Matt Murphy. Matt was very, very instrumental in working with the city from the hospital board to help move forward with the acquisition of the property where St. Thomas Hospital is currently built. There's just many, many individuals who stepped up to the plate, and I'm kind of reminded of Teddy Roosevelt. Anybody can sit back and complain and say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Find fault with those that try to move things forward, but unless you've been in the fray and gotten a little hot, a little sweaty, a little bloody, it probably wasn't worth doing. But there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this project, and this community is well served by it. In the early 60s, I left Rutherford County to find employment after I got out of school. Went to East Tennessee.
But you came home.
Came home in 70 and haven't looked back. And I'm so proud, as we all are,
Sure.
of this community.
How many years were you city manager?
Some would say a few too many. John, I was 22 years.
Okay, 22 years, wonderful service. Well, this is a story I wanted to preserve and let more people to hear how some of this came about, some of the interesting situations that developed and has brought us to the Avenue and the Gateway project like it is today. We haven't mentioned Murfreesboro Medical Clinic, mentioned St. Thomas Rutherford, but that's been another great addition to the medical community here.
Oh, it has.
As well as many doctor's
Certainly
offices.
has. Certainly
Murfreesboro Medical Clinic was able to more than double the size of their facility, the number of new doctors and services that they have brought to the community. And again, that facility is located like all of these others have been. That's on the old Ben Hall McFarland farm.
I guess it is, yes.
So I kind of look at what's been built and say, well, now this was on so-and-so's farm,
right.
and on so-and-so's
You're one
farm.
of the fewer that can relate those stories and make the comparisons there.
Right. Elgin Acord, the Acord
Hardware.
family. Very, very helpful in us being able to cross Thompson Lane with Medical Center Parkway. It took the work and the effort from a lot of people to cause
Gentlemen,
it to
thank
happen.
you so much for coming. Any final comment, Tommy, that comes to mind?
Looking forward to greater years as we go forward. I think that will happen to Murfreesboro.
Absolutely, I believe so. Roger, any other comments then?
I would just encourage the leadership of the county and cities today to join hands and develop the plan to take care of future generations' needs, because what we've done won't solve. It'll meet a need today, but
Sure.
there'll be additional needs in the future.
And the city of Murfreesboro is in the process of that right now, I believe, with that 2035 study.
Right.
Thank you so much for what you've done for this community, what you continue to do. Pleased to have you on Murfreesboro Storyteller to tell this story about the Avenue and the Gateway Project. Tommy Smith, developer for the Gateway Project. Roger Haley, former city manager for the city of Murfreesboro. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.